Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub, for a special interview as we continue to run the series here on Two Up Front. I am Baxter Colburn.
And I'm Simon Provan.
A very good day to you, Simon Provan. The end of the week is finally here. Of course, it is a Friday. How are you? How's life?
Well, it feels like the week is just starting for me, Baxter.
Is it? You got a busy weekend ahead?
Well, always, it's soccer season, so running around the state with my daughter and wife and other daughters, so yeah, we're all over the place.
Always a busy time, that's for sure. Well, of course, with it being such a busy time, with the guests that we do have on Two Up Front, they're not always able to make it live on the air, but we are able to sometimes catch up with them based off of their travel and other things going on, and we have another great opportunity to do that today. We've had players on from this team before, the Seattle Reign. We've had Haley Kottmeyer on and others as well, too. We now get the opportunity to bring in Welsh international and midfield and all-around awesome person, Jess Fishlock. She joins us now on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Jess, a very good day to you. Welcome to Two Up Front.
Hi, thank you, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, Jess. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today. Of course, very first and foremost, one game already under the belt for you this season, a 1-1 draw against Sky Blue FC. How are you feeling after the first game of the season under the belt? Of course, I'm sure still getting back into the rhythm, but how are you feeling? How's the body doing after week one?
Yeah, good. It's always interesting the day after your very first game on turf for a long time. I did wake up on Sunday feeling like I'd been hit by a bus, which
it's never fun.
Which I hadn't felt for a while when you play on grass a little bit more. But no, look, it was a great game. It was so good to be back in the season start. So yeah, loved it and feel good now.
Well, before we get too much into NWSL talk, Jess, I first of all want to congratulate you on the big victory in the W League Championship game, winning that.
Yeah.
On top of that, I got to ask you about your experience. 11 weeks into the season, you were named head coach, so you were both the player. I know you were the assistant coach, but officially named the head coach later in the season. What was that experience like, being both a player coach at the same time and, of course, hoisting that championship at the end on top of it?
Yeah, being player coach, I really wouldn't recommend that to anybody.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, that would be my advice. Just don't do it for the love of God. Just don't do it. It was hard. It was very hard. It was at times soul destroying, but at times very rewarding. But it was very difficult, and yeah, I wasn't particularly ready for it either, so that was another thing. But what I will say is, if there was ever a situation to have been in that place, was being with the City Group was great, because of the support structure that they have around that. They helped me. And the group of girls that we had was a big factor to why, one, I was able to do it, and two, why we ended up being successful. And so, yeah, it was a fantastic learning curve, hugely challenging, extremely rewarding. And I'll always say that being in that situation, it's either going to work or it's going to be a big failure. And a big part of that is the group that you get to work with, and the group that I had to work with were great.
And on top of that, Jess, you've basically played all over the place. Australia, of course, here in the States, you played some time in the Women's Bundesliga, the Scottish Premier League. Wondering if you can kind of balance everything out for us on the difference in all those experiences that you've had.
Oh, they're all completely different, and the reason for me why they're so different is because the culture is so different. It's not necessarily the football that is different, but the culture outside of the football is what is the difference, is what makes it either more difficult or a little bit easier, or more enjoyable, or really, really difficult to enjoy anything. It is completely the culture and the group and the squad that you have. So, football is football at the end of the day. The principles and the philosophy is not so different. Wherever you go, it's still you get the football and you got to try and put it in a net. Like that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, as the old cliche is, the ball is round.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's what makes soccer so special around the world too.
Yeah, it's crazy. You go to all these places, they live in completely different ways, and they all have a different outlook on how you should behave outside of football and how you should do this and how you should do that. But the reality of it is the principle's the same. You play football, you try and keep it, you try and score. That's it.
Exactly. Speaking of scoring, of course, Seattle getting on the board one time this last weekend against Sky Blue FC in that 1-1 draw. Of course, now you look ahead to the rest of the season of, this is a Seattle team too, Jess, that really reloaded in the offseason. I mean, bringing in high-caliber players from around the league. Some people might say you were stealing some of the best players from some of the other teams out there. But with this core group of ladies that you have on the squad now, especially with the new additions, is this a Seattle team that can make a push for the championship? I know that seems awful cliche to ask, but with the struggles of not making it there, consistently, what do you feel about this roster going into the regular season now?
Yeah, look, I think it's a roster that can push for a championship. There's no doubt about that. I truly believe that, and I would be equally as honest to say that it wouldn't be if I didn't think that at all. But what I do believe it is also a roster that needs time to grow together and work together. Because, like you say, we made a lot of changes in the off season. We're going through a little bit of a transition, and whenever you do that, it will take time to get it right, and it will take time to see the end product of it. And I think it's up to us as players, really, to try and make the transition as fast as we can and as smooth as we can, because at the end of the day, come July, we really want to be starting our peak. We don't need to be brilliant right now, and no team needs to be brilliant right now. But come July, then we need to be on the track to being who we want to be.
Well, and of course, that journey continues this weekend against a team that may or may not have surprised a lot of people over the weekend, the Houston Dash, as they shut out the Chicago Red Stars 2-0. How do you game plan to deal with the firepower that Houston brings, whether that be Rachel Daly or Keelia Ohai or just the numerous midfielders that they have that can stretch the field left and right? How do you game plan for that? Has Coach Laura Harvey shared any of her insights about how you guys are going to try to slow them down this week?
Yeah, of course. Look, the Dash are very similar to the way that they've played really for the last 2 years. Same kind of setup, same team. They have pace up top. They like to play a certain way, really. But also I think what we have to look into consideration is that, Houston Dash at home and the Houston Dash away are two very different teams.
Oh, yeah.
Playing in Houston in that heat is one of the hardest things to do in this league. Like, hands down. When you go to Houston, it is a different game of football. And, we're very confident in our home, in the Memorial, and when we play at Memorial. And it's a different game for Houston too. They can't rely on the heat and the big pitch. It's different. And so we know how they work. We are confident in the way that we work. Obviously, we have to deal with their pace and their threat up top. But their pace is no faster than Kelly O'Hara or Sam Kerr, who we just faced weekend, and kind of dealt with their pace quite well. So, Olia Goldsmith for Sky Blue, who's probably one of the fastest in the league that there is. So we have to deal with pace, but we will always have to deal with pace. So, it doesn't really change that much.
Jess, you talked about not having to gel, of course, until July because of the way the season works out. However, it's always good to get those wins right away. You guys have an impressive record right now, 18 straight games at home with a goal. Wow. Again, starting out the season with that 1-1 tie against Sky Blue. What changes do you think do have to happen in this game for you to get those 3 points this weekend?
I think it will come down to changes. I think the changes that you make are crucial. However we go into the game, and then the changes that we make in the game. I just think against the Dash, we just have to really put pressure on their back line and really stop the ball get into their front line. I think ultimately how well we do that will determine how much control we have of the match, and if we control the match, then we have enough quality to win the game. And I think it is. That sounds pretty simple, but I actually think it is that simple.
Sure, and to bring this interview all the way back around from earlier, how tempting is it for you to tell Laura Harvey, wait a second, here's what I'm thinking if I were a head coach?
Now, it's quite funny. I got asked this question yesterday. That never crosses my mind.
I'm sure it doesn't.
It never actually crosses my mind because the funny thing is whilst I was in Australia, Laura Harvey would be my phone call. So every time I needed help with something or a thought process or a man management or anything like that, I would just pick up the phone and ring Laura, and I'd be like, Laura,
help me.
I need you. I need you.
Well,
help me.
No matter what business, no matter what sport you're in, the best people in the business, in the game, always lean on their mentors.
Exactly.
And call the best people. I mean, it makes sense to do.
100%. And we have a great working relationship, so there is never a question or a doubt or a moment or a fleeting moment of lack of belief in the way that Laura works, So thankfully, I don't ever have those feelings. And right now, I'm really happy that I don't, because the last thing I want to do is be a coach right now. I just want to play.
And that's, I think, what you do so well, Jess, and we certainly look forward to seeing more of that the rest of the season. We want to thank you, of course, for taking the time today, for joining us on Two Up Front. We wish you nothing but the best the rest of the season, and we hope to have you back at some point as well, too, during the middle of the season to check in, all right?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. There goes Jess Fishlock on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Just some great insight from her, of course. And we've mentioned this before, too, that we've had these different players on the team from Seattle on the team before, and just the dynamic and the character and the respect. I mean, you are a Portland Thorns fan. We've said that numerous times, and I'm a Dash fan. But just the way that Seattle players somehow carry themselves is just – it makes you want to like them, and it's hard to.
Well, I think one of the things, Baxter, you find is the immense experience they have. Jess Fishlock was the first Welsh international player to hit 100 caps. So that does show the leadership that she has, as you're talking about, the ability to carry herself, and that she continues to be successful no matter where she goes.
Right, exactly. And ultimately, I think that's why she has had so much success, is because she can mold into the system no matter what it is. She's not a one-system type of player, which we've seen so many people fall victim to before. She will do whatever has to happen for the good of the team, which makes her such a great player.
Absolutely.
So, well, we appreciate Jess for taking the time today, of course. We appreciate you folks for tuning into the special interview as well. This interview will re-air, of course, on Wednesday during our normal time on Two Up Front on Bruce Sports. Remember to go and find our website, 2upfront soccer, the number 2. You can also find us on the Bruce Sports Network. Go to brucesportsnet.com and their Facebook page, Bruce Sports. We're also tweeted all over their Twitter as well, at Bruce Sportsnet on there as well, too, if you want to find us on the network side of things. But you can also follow us on the personal side as well.
Yeah, speaking of Facebook and Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, Two Up Front. We've been getting a lot of likes this week, so thank you to all of you. I got a feeling it's a lot of those Sky Blue FC fans.
I think so. They're taking over the show.
And those North Carolina fans, as we had those couple of great interviews this last week as well. But so Two Up Front on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Two Up Front Soccer. Check out our personal handles at Simon Provan, at Baxter Colburn.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys tuning in today. We'll see you on Wednesday for the full edition of Two Up Front. For Simon Provan, I'm Baxter Colburn. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.